Welcome to the Seniors Rock Show, presented by the Law Office of Michael Robinson, PC, on News Radio, Wham 1180. The Seniors Rock Show, a lively weekly discussion shining a bright light on aging with fun, entertainment, and important info for all adults. Join in with your comments or questions. Call or text 222-1180 or 1-800-295-1180. Now from the News Radio Wham 1180 studio in downtown Rochester, here's your host, Joanna Palvino.
Good afternoon. I'm Joanna. Mike Robinson is off today, so we selected another great guest co-host to join me for this hour with you. If you're a regular listener to this radio station, you've probably heard him on the air. His official title is co-host of the Wham 5 o'clock news. He's a mix of funny guy, newsman, production expert, and creative dude.
No, for crying out loud.
Oh, stop it now. And then add the title of historian. He's getting all right over here to that impressive list. And you've got our special guest today, and it's Mr. Joe LOMONACO.
Hi there. My goodness, it's happy to be on the program. Thank you for having me. Yes, accidental historian, I will say. It's accidental historian. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that because,
indeed.
you know, if you want to know if Joe knows radio, he certainly does. And now, more than ever, because just like he just said, he's become a historian. And he did a podcast series that he's working on and still happening. And it's called Wham at 100, an oral history. Thanks for joining us today, Joe, and good afternoon to you.
Hello, Joanna. Thank you very much for having me on the program. And yes, that's the name of the podcast series, and we are not quite halfway through it, believe it or not, coming up on our 100th birthday, which is officially July 11th. That is the official sign-on date, but we've been spending the entire year looking back at our history, talking with old friends, finding some hidden nuggets of great sound that we've been sharing, so it's been a whole lot of fun to learn from my point of view, a lot about the station I've spent 28 years at.
And there is a lot to talk about, and we're going to do that today. So stay with us, folks. And later in the show, Joe and I will also be joined by Dr. Natalia Farnsworth, and she is the Executive Director of AGAPE Physical Therapy. And she's got some really cool information about how physical therapy can help you. Yeah. And so back to you, Joe.
All right. Yes, more about me, please.
Yes, please. Let's start at the beginning. I know this guy's the master. I'm very excited about having him here in the studio. So I'm hoping he'll correct me.
Yeah, critique as we go.
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Your radio career. Mm-hmm. What path brought you to Wham?
Well, it initially started with, I was a kid who watched cartoons, and then with my tape recorder, I would attempt to mimic the sounds that I heard coming through my TV. People like Mel Blanc and Dawes Butler and those great guys from the 40s and 50s who were really the pioneers of animation. So I would get my tape recorder and I'd try to make little, I didn't call them radio shows, but I would just make the voices and improv and act and then play them back to me. So it, I guess, was evident that I was going to wind up talking for a living. Looking back on it and what I've done, a lot of reflection on my career going through the Wham history podcast series is going back and thinking, well, what was it that attracted me to the business and what attracted me to the relationships I had with the people who were on the air when I was a kid? And it really was, I think I just kind of gravitated toward that. These people I heard were larger than life. They were a part of the community. We woke up to them every day, started my day with them, ended my day with them. And that eventually led me to say, look, if I'm going to pursue something, if I want to do something, it's probably going to be behind a microphone. And wound up going to school at Geneseo. That was the college that attracted me, and spent 4 years there working towards getting a job in the industry. And I wound up very lucky. I graduated on a Saturday in May of 1993. Sunday morning at 6 a.m., I started my very first job. And I have been doing this in one way or another ever since.
Yeah, well, I think you were born for this.
Pretty much. When you're an Italian, you talk. It's one of the things you do. And I had to learn
He's not moving his hands,
to
by the
not
way.
talk with my hands because you will hit the microphone stand. That's what will happen. So I got my first job right out of college, 1993, worked there for about a year and a half, came to WHAM. Jack Palvino was gracious enough to hire me. And I started there working part-time, and I was bartending and doing a lot of other things to kind of keep, make ends meet and pay the bills. And then eventually they noticed that I could do things, and I kept getting keys to new offices. They say, well, you can do this. Here's the key to the office. Go do that. You want to host the news hour? Here's the key to the office. Go do it. So I was very fortunate to have had people who recognized that I could do things. I had an environment that was conducive to it. And like I said, I came to, a lot of people they go from station to station and they have a lot of different jobs. I didn't. I've had 3 stations. I have 3 sets of call letters, one
Fantastic.
in Binghamton, 2 here in Rochester, and that's been it.
That's wonderful. And you've seen so much, Joe. You've been part of WHM, the News Hour, since 1997. Okay, so in your opinion, how has news reporting changed over the years?
It's faster. It's much more immediate. There are many more people that are involved in creating stories, reporting stories. Social media and the digital landscape has certainly changed all of that. I'm gonna jump in and say that I think they took some of the personality out of the news. In my opinion, I remember you being on and driving home from work at the 5 o'clock hour and listening to you and laughing because you kind of interject some things, personal things, not personal, but you made it more real. We've certainly changed the style. It has changed, and the 24-hour news cycle has did all of that way back in the day. But certainly, there's more sources, there's more ways of getting information, and there's also a lot of, well, who do I trust? Where, do we have a common point of reference anymore? It used to be that there was a certain anchor or a certain show or a certain publication or a certain source, and that's kind of the basis. Now there's so many places
That's right.
that are coming in. And that, for me, is really, I think, how it has changed the most, is that we don't have that. We all look to Cronkite. Okay, as an example,
personalities that we related to, like
people
relationships,
that we believed, people that we trusted,
relationships and trust.
And there's a lot more people and a lot less trust. Now, not trusting everything that comes out of somebody's mouth is a good thing.
Yeah,
being I'm going to question you. I'm going to think about what this is and how you're doing it, and do I really believe you? Okay, that's is very important to have in an audience, but that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen happen over the last 20, 25 years.
Very good points. And I think the relationship part was very important to me because I remember certain anchors leaving, even television, when they retired or they left. And I felt bad. I was like, geez, I kind of missed them.
Yeah, your
you
friend
feel
is gone.
Yeah.
Your trusted friend is gone, and that's a lot. That's a big part of it. That's that relationship that the audience have with the people they either hear or they see. It's a big part of making it all happen.
My aunt used to say, "Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see." So there it is. But I was going to ask you one more thing, and then we'll get into some more stuff after the break. But you were also a part. You're doing this on-air stuff, but you're also a part of iHeartRadio's National Production Center. So what do you do there? What's your role?
People who do production, we make commercials. That's how I can explain it to you. And radio is a medium for sales. And so that is exactly what it is that we do. We help radio stations all across the country be as effective in marketing for their clients. And you can hear me here in Rochester and as far away as California, as far south as Florida, and even up to Alaska.
Oh, all over the world. It's so awesome. So anyway, you're listening right now to the Seniors Rock Show, folks. We'll be right back with more after this break on News Radio, WHAM 1180.
Attorney Mike Robinson here. I've dedicated over 36 years to helping clients protect their family and their wealth with comprehensive custom-crafted estate plans. When you join us for a webinar, you'll be invited to schedule a complimentary meeting with me to discuss your personal goals and concerns.
The next webinar from the Law Office of Michael Robinson is Wednesday, June 22nd at 2. Attendees are eligible for a free consult with Mike valued at $500. Register now, mrobinsonlaw.com, mrobinsonlaw.com.
You're listening to Seniors Rock Radio. I'm Joe LOMONACO, guest host today along with Joanna Pelvino.
It's so great to have you here on the show, Joe. I have been hearing a lot of buzz about this podcast series you're doing, and it's called, folks, if you don't know, Wham at 100, an oral history. And it's fascinating, and there are several things, I think, 30 or so, 30 plus?
45 total episodes.
Wow.
We do 2 a week.
That's
so
amazing.
We got a lot, and a lot more still to come.
Yeah, every week, and there's new ones. So my father-in-law, Jack Pelvino, just mentioned he's enjoyed every episode, Joe. And he, you said he hired you, so that's pretty cool, right? And he remarked, what a terrific job you're doing.
Well, Jack, thank you so very much. Jack is episode 2. I think he's episode 2 of the podcast. So if you want to go back, it is available exclusively on the iHeartRadio app. You can go back and binge all of our past episodes. Jack Pelvino is there. Alan Harris is there. Jack Slattery, who we just featured in our last episode, is up there. And a lot of reporters and anchors and people who we all stand on their shoulders today. And we have a lot more in store coming up later on in the year, all leading up to, of course, our official 100th birthday, which is July 11th. So mark it on your calendar. You can celebrate Wham Day. It's coming up there. And then we're going to continue all throughout the back half of the year. We're going to have a lot more guests. And hopefully we're going to have a lot more great stories to tell about why people got into the industry, what they love about the industry, what they remember about their time at Wham, what it meant to them to be a part of this radio station, because it's not just a place where people tune in to listen to their favorite commentator or to hear the news, or a lot of people tune in for school closings. That was how they got to know the station, because they wanted to know if they didn't have to get up that morning, but it became a part of their lives and routine. And it's something that radio can do that not a lot of other things can do, and still does. And we're very happy to be sharing all of these stories. I've learned a lot about people that I thought I knew, that I didn't know as much about them as I thought.
Yeah, interesting.
It really has been fun.
And I have a question, because when I started listening and knew what this project was about and tried to get my head around all of these people and all of these years, I thought, how do you find these people? How did you do that?
I really just kind of sat and started to think about the people that I worked with, the people that were in the newsroom or on the air at my time. Randy Gordman, our former news director, Dave McKinley, Susan Ashline, Sherry Smith, Bill Lau, Beverly Morgan. And once you start thinking about those people that you worked with, then the spider web starts to show up, and you start to see how they're connected to other people who also had a connection to the place. So I have this list that I've been carrying around with me since 2019 is when we started doing the homework on this. And I just, every time I thought of a name, I just write it down on the list.
How did you get asked to do it?
I didn't.
Oh, you just started doing it.
I just started doing it because I wanted to make sure that something so big and momentous was marked in a way that in the past, what we've done for anniversaries, we've done a 2, 3, or 4 hour broadcast. That was it. And that's how we marked the anniversary. At 100 years, being one of the first radio stations in the country and having an important role to play in the early days of broadcasting, I wanted to make sure that it was marked by something that would be left behind. Because a lot of what we do every day in this medium is very ephemeral. It's very, you use it, and then if nobody chooses to save it, it kind of goes away. Now, in a digital era, there's a lot of stuff that's available online. Podcasting is a big thing. It's a great place to warehouse it. But back in the earlier days, they didn't think about it this way. And recording was not easy to do. Things didn't get saved. And a lot of the history is just gone. You can't hear it.
Yeah.
And that's that's so disappointing. So I've been trying to do two things. Number one, preserve as much of it as possible, and also to collect the stories about the people who made up what you heard. And what you heard was important, but the stories behind it are just as important.
Very important. And I want to go right back to the very beginning of WHAM. And I have a question because I think I know who named the call letters, who was responsible, but you teased that.
Think you
tell
know,
us, please.
But you don't,
won't tell us.
You don't know. Well, I will tell you. In episode 1, we talked with Scott Feibush. Scott Feibush has never worked for WHAM, but he is an incredible resource on broadcast, especially radio, and he knows a lot about what happened here in this town. So go back and listen to the whole episode. In fact, there's two. There's a shorter version and a longer version of the interview that I did with him. And the story we like to hear is that George Eastman chose those call letters because he had that was just how his brain worked, and he thought these would be wonderful call letters. That is not the case.
That's what I heard, and I heard that he liked like hard, letters. And that's...
Yes, he did. However, at the time, according to how Scott tells the story, in the earlier days of radio, call letters were assigned sequentially. So there was a WHAL, a WHAM, a WHAN. If you look at the list from 1922, and it's available, you can find it online. We got those call letters. Now, did George Eastman possibly have something to do with making sure we got the good call letters? Who knows?
Yeah.
Now, so the narrative, we debunked that right off the top. And Eastman, though he was a financier, was not completely involved in the day-to-day operations of the radio station. That was left to other people. He kind of was the Tom Golisano of his era.
I heard that he bought the station because he wanted the RPO to have a venue.
That is
right?
what he wanted. Yeah,
So I got that right.
It was very high-minded, very high-minded. They wanted to make this as an outlet for the RPO and for the arts. It very quickly, though, became a commercial entity. Very quickly had to expand its broadcast day and kind of move through there. So go back to episode 1 if you want to know a little bit more about this radio station and about just radio in general in Rochester and how it got built up from the early 1920s and really exploded in popularity and started to expand into the 20s and how Wham was a part of it and where we were, how we got where we are. It's really is fascinating. Scott does a great job with it, and that's in our first episodes right now on the iHeartRadio app. You can just go check it out.
Yeah, and that's the only place you can find it,
It's
right?
the only place,
Okay.
exclusively on the iHeartRadio app. That's what we're doing. So and we do 2 episodes a week on Wednesdays and Sundays. And so we have a lot of stuff up there. And if you're really interested, just go back and check that out. That would be a great place.
Google it.
Yeah.
You can just Google
Yes,
Wham
Google
100.
it.
It'll
Yeah,
pop up.
it'll come right up to you.
Absolutely. It's just fascinating. And I guess I'm going to ask you one of the obvious questions. Do you have a favorite interview at this point so far?
Oh, boy, no. Too many of them.
Yeah,
way too many of them. So many great stories and so many that I'm just sitting on that I haven't shared yet. And I can't wait to share them.
It's exciting. I can tell you're passionate about it. I
Absolutely,
love it. I have
absolutely.
a passion for seniors and working with elders and being an advocate. And I can see that you are just bringing it all together and keeping the history alive, which I love.
That's fantastic. And here's what we're going to do next. We're going to take a quick break from this, and when we come back, we're going to learn about physical therapy and how it helps from an area expert. This is the Seniors Rock Show on News Radio Wham 1180. We'll be right back.
RockVox Recording and Production is Western New York's first purpose-built podcast and live stream studio, featuring Zcam digital cinema cameras, Rode Procaster microphones, and over 25 years of audio and visual production experience. RockVox also specializes in audiobook production for independent and self-published authors, as well as voiceover recording for radio, TV, film, and telephony. Learn more about our Bushnell's Basin studios and services at rocvox.com or follow us on social media. Mouth off at RockVox.
Dr. Natalia Farnsworth, the executive director at AGAPE Physical Therapy, is ready to join us now. And we're on the Seniors Rock Show, as you know. First, let me introduce her to you. Natalia graduated with her doctorate in physical therapy from Upstate Medical University in Syracuse. That's where she gained an interest in working with older adults. As she practiced, Natalia gained an appreciation for functional movement. And she said she applied this to older adults for balance and strength training. That's really cool. Natalia also opened 2 clinics in New York City and Manhattan with a PT company there before returning to Rochester and joining AGAPE Physical Therapy. And we're sure glad she did, because she's the executive director now and she oversees all of their locations. I'd like to welcome now to the Seniors Rock Show, Dr. Natalia Farnsworth. Hello, Doc.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy you're with us today. And
yes, this is great.
You always give us great information, and everyone at AGAPE has their specialties. But you're kind of like the umbrella person. So I'm going to ask you a question that's kind of an umbrella question. What is it that makes AGAPE stand out from other physical therapy clinics, Doctor?
Yeah, so I really think, physical therapy in general is a wonderful field, but here in the Rochester area, AGAPE really offers a lot to our community. We now have 7 locations throughout Rochester, and we have a lot of really unique pieces of equipment that can be really beneficial for folks coming into our clinics. So we actually offer aquatic physical therapy at 4 of our 7 locations. And then we have these anti-gravity treadmills at every single one of our locations that can really help offload people. So our equipment really kind of sets us apart. And then I truly believe that nowadays you can find a lot of exercises online. You can go online or you can go on YouTube and you can find exercises. It's not the exercise that lets us stand apart. It's the education. When you come in here and we're educating you about your condition, you're able to ask us questions when you're here. We're spending a lot of time with you, a lot of that individualized one-on-one time, and we're able to correct those exercises to make sure you're doing them right, because anyone can find an exercise, but the execution of it the proper way and the proper number of reps and sets really makes the difference in your rehab process. So with us, you're not going to be just doing your exercises the same ones that you're doing at home. You're going to really learn a lot about your own body and learn a lot about what can help you get better. So I really think, the pieces of equipment, but also the education is really big.
Yeah, and I would imagine, Doctor, that the educational component, you're right, there's so much information out there, especially when it comes to seniors. Form is going to be very important for them to learn first so that they can actually do some of this work on their own, as well as under the guidance of a physical therapist, whether they're just trying to maintain strength or balance or rehab from an injury.
Oh, yeah. And
Exactly.
I'm going to jump in because I know going to PT myself, it was always helpful to have them show me, because even if it's a few inches different, it can make a big difference in how you're doing the different exercises.
Definitely. I've even had somebody the other day, I'm like, I want you to do 3 sets of 15. They're like, are you just trying to torture me? I'm like, no, because we're working on endurance now. That's why I'm having you do more. So you do that 15 plus repetitions, you're working on endurance of those muscles rather than 3 sets of 10 just because that's what we think makes sense. So there's a lot more that goes into it, than just the exercise.
And it works because I've hobbled in to PT and then walked out normally. It's amazing. It really is, because it's kind of counterintuitive. And I am here to tell you it works, folks. And I hate exercising, but I do my stretches, and if I don't, I feel it. So tell folks, Dr. Natalia Farnsworth from AGAPE, tell them who can benefit from physical therapy.
Yeah, so a lot of the time people think physical therapy is just for those that are very, very injured. Maybe they have undergone a lot of major surgeries or been in a tragic car accident or something like that. But physical therapy can really benefit everyone. I have people come in prior to golf season, for example, and say, hey, I want to get in shape for golf. Or prior to ski season, and they want to get in shape to go skiing. So it really, a lot of people can benefit from this, meaning you don't have to have a prescription from your doctor to say you need to do physical therapy, or you don't have to have a surgery to say you need to do physical therapy. If you just are having an achy shoulder, an achy neck, or if you're just trying to prevent something, like I mentioned earlier, we can really help you with that as well. So it doesn't need to be a big injury to benefit from physical therapy.
Dr. Farnsworth, you talk about you have a patient there that's kind of tuning up for golf season. Now, talk about the difference then between coming to a physical therapy practice and then maybe going to a gym. It sounds like you can do better for yourself, especially for older adults, to be able to get some form and function there and a little education instead of just diving headfirst into how many reps I can do on a machine.
Exactly. We're able to assess your body and give you the exercises that make the most sense for you, rather than going to a gym and just getting on the machines and then coming into us and saying, well, now my back hurts.
Yeah, now I
We're
injured
going to
something.
be able to make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself worse by trying to get into the gym, get you in shape to do that, and give you the right exercises that make sense for you. Not every exercise everyone should be doing. We can kind of specify this to you and your previous injuries, or really what your goals are as well, and make it very functional.
Yeah, make it functional, and also know that physical therapy is supposed to test you. It's not supposed to create injuries. It's supposed to help you prevent or rebound from injuries.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly.
or prevent injuries. And I'll ask you, folks might be wondering, is it going to hurt them when they do this? Is it going to hurt? And like I said, it's kind of counterintuitive. Tell them about that.
Yeah, so a lot of the time people think, we always get this running joke of physical therapy means pain and torture or something like that. And in most cases, physical therapy should not be painful. You shouldn't be in pain coming in here. You shouldn't be in pain while you're here or when you leave here. Really, a lot of the exercises should be helping you to actually feel better. There are a few instances where things might get a little bit painful, and that would be rehabbing from a surgery, let's say a knee replacement, for example. Sometimes getting that range of motion back can be a little bit uncomfortable. Same thing with a shoulder injury. If you're working on getting range of motion back, sometimes that can really stretch and be a little bit uncomfortable. But I really try to stay away from the no pain, no gain type of mentality where, you shouldn't be hurting worse. And there's a difference between I'm really sore and I'm feeling this in the right muscles in my glutes, for example, and my hips, for example, rather than my back pain that I'm coming in here for. So that's kind of the difference. It shouldn't be painful. It should be, hey, I'm starting to feel these muscles working now.
Yeah.
Rather than my specific pain that I'm coming in for.
AGAPEphysicaltherapy.com, AGAPE physicaltherapy.com. You don't need a doctor prescription. You can just go to the website and check it out. Dr. Natalia Farnsworth, thank you so much for spending time with us. You're listening to Seniors Rock Radio, and we will be back with more of me, Joel LOMONACO, after this quick break on News Radio WHAM 1180.
When you've lost movement, flexibility, strength, or balance, traveling a long distance for physical therapy seems like a bad decision. That's why AGAPE Physical Therapy has a convenient location near you, east side or west side. And there's a new location in Pittsford with Aqua Therapy. Let AGAPE Physical Therapy and wellness professionals customize a treatment program for you to help you recover quickly. Visit AGAPEphysicaltherapy.com and schedule your free consultation today. No doctor referral needed. We're getting close to the end of our hour with you, folks, and we hope you enjoyed today's program and that you'll tell your friends and your loved ones about the Seniors Rock Show. We ask you to do that every week because we're here to reach more people with unique content, topics that cover a wide range of important information about seniors and their families and the people who care for them, and, of course, entertainment opportunities because socializing is important. We are advocates for elders, and we're riding the age wave with you. I learn something every week, and this week about what I'm learning is about this legendary station we have the privilege of broadcasting on, and here with Joe LOMONACO, and learning about physical therapy and the benefits from Dr. Farnsworth. I'm so grateful for all of that, and for my sponsors that support the show. That's how we come back every week. They're here to support us, and we're here to support you. So it's teamwork. I thank you, Joe LOMONACO, for jumping in and sharing your talent and that obvious love that you have, the passion for the great medium we call radio with us today. You've been a wonderful co-host.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, you can get podcasts of this show, can you not?
Oh, yeah. It's on
Okay.
seniorsrockradio.com.
All right. So make sure that if you miss any part of this episode, you want to listen to it again, you want to share it with somebody because the information is good, seniorsrockradio.com is a great place to start so that you can stream it on demand, just in case you can't make the appointment to be here for Seniors Rock Radio every week.
Absolutely. And just to recap here, we've been talking about the podcast that Joe LOMONACO has been working on for how long, Joe?
Started in 2019. We launched in January of this year, in recognition of our 100th birthday, which will be on July 11th. That's when we officially turn 100 years old. We've had a lot of great guests already, and we're not quite even halfway through our year. We have more in the offing. Mike Sidoni will be joining us later on this year. Mike was our entertainment critic in the early 1980s, and we have some brilliant old sound from Mike that I cannot wait to embarrass him with. We will talk to the most senior member of the WHAM staff, Mike Morgan, who's going to be 90 this year, who was our news director back in the, he came here in the 50s and 60s up until the early 80s. Mike was here. He was a big part of our station. We'll be talking to some of our young reporters, those who are a new generation of WHAM. We'll be sharing some highlights from our 70th and 75th anniversary shows. Some people who are no longer with us were part of those shows, and we do want to make sure that we highlight them. And also featuring a lot of great old audio, anything that we can find. We've had some Doc and Katie Abraham Green Thumb shows a couple of weeks ago. Those are on demand. We have had some sports highlights, and we've had a lot of other great little nuggets that we find. People have some of this stuff, and while we've been doing the podcast, some people have reached out and said, hey, my dad had a tape, or I found this in a box, and they give us this great sound, and we've been able to share some of that. And also, we're also going to let you know that there are people that worked at Wham that you may not remember worked at Wham. People like Dee Alexander, who was part of the Tony and Dee morning show for many years. Jim Maroney, who you see on Spectrum News, spent a few years with us as well. And we have a lot more people that came through this radio station, again, that we stand on the shoulders of today, that did what they did. They started their careers here. They moved on maybe to other things, but they always have a great respect and love for what we did here. And those are the stories that we're sharing all throughout our anniversary year.
I love it. And it's perfect for this show because we stand on the shoulders of the elders that came before us. And we remind people all the time to pay your respect and remember what they did for us. So thank you for putting this together, this Wham at 100 and Oral History podcast series. Please, folks, check it out. It's fabulous, and you will have some wonderful memories with that.
You certainly will. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we certainly will. And you'll remember the great things about the time. It may spark a new memory for you and some connection you had to this place. And being part of this community for 100 years, there's a lot of connections that are out there and a lot of people that still remember all of the great talent that came before. And hopefully they're still part of the audience today and hearing all the new generation of the kids, as I call them now. Because I've been around long enough to be able to call them the kids. So yeah, there's a lot of younger people that still want to do what we do, and they're still coming into the business.
Well, I think it keeps you young, this kind of work, and the passion, it really does. And I'm telling you, he looks younger than I've seen. I saw him a couple years ago. You look younger. I think you're going the other way.
There's a portrait of me in my attic that's going in the opposite direction. So.
Anyways, it's been great to have you here, and thank you for sharing so much about WHAM. I have a question, though.
Sure.
I would like to know a little bit about your life off of the air, because you obviously have a life besides Wham. So
Not much, but a little.
I know one thing, that you have a creative wife. I think her name is Linda.
Yes.
And isn't she an artist? Tell us about your life.
Yeah. My wife and I, Linda, we've been together since Geneseo. We met at the campus radio station and also in the Fine Arts building, in the Brody Fine Arts building at Geneseo. She does art she's not a professional artist. She does it because she loves it. She's inspired by it, and she tries to share a little bit of beauty every single day. So you can follow her on Instagram, Circles in Squares Art. You can find her there with all of the stuff that she does. She tries to put something out every single day, and it brings me an immense amount of joy. I have a lot of her work in my studio. We have it all over our house. It's absolutely beautiful.
I love her birds. She paints and draws
she draws
beautiful
and
birds.
paints and does photography. She tries a little bit of everything. So it's great to have all of that around the house. We are parents to a 7-year-old Chihuahua, etc., named Sasha. She's well, we don't quite know. We know there's
That's
Chihuahua
great.
in there, but there's a lot of other stuff. And she's a sassy little girl who is my wife's dog. Essentially, I feed the dog, and occasionally she will walk with me, but that's about as far as it goes. Love spending time doing improvements around the house, learning how to build things, learning how to take things apart poorly and then put them back together again. So I spend time with that, and occasionally I can get out on the golf course, and I don't do that very much as I would like to, and I'm not particularly good at it, but it's still nice to be out in the great outdoors for 4 or 5 hours. So that is kind of nice. So I try to balance all of that together. And really, I don't feel that I work at all. Being a part of this radio station has been a blessing to me for over 28 years. And I don't do a job. I just have conversations, and that's been one of the greatest blessings that I could ever possibly have imagined.
What a great way to wrap it up, Joe. Thank you for
You are
sharing your
entirely
passion
welcome.
with us today. And hopefully you'll come back again and tell us more, because it seems like you're rolling right through the years and you've got more to tell us. So we'll be having you back.
More stories, you betcha.
Yes. And folks, I hope you'll join us next week. We're here every Saturday from noon till 1. So next week, Mike Robinson will be back, so you can join us, and we'll have more reasons to celebrate aging, radio, and all of that next Saturday. And why do we do it?
Because
Joe, say it with me. Seniors rock.